welcome to this week's edition of Sunday Night Live, the automotive show where we talk about all things automotive and we bring on the experts to talk about what they know and share with the audience. And today I'm really excited, as I'm always excited, because I get some really great people that come on the show. And this week we have none other than the Paul Machin from BLACKBOOK. and BLACKBOOK is amazing because you can't make any kind of decision today that makes any sense without data, right? Data is what drives intelligent decisions. If you just go out there and wing it, forget it. You know, you may recall back in the day, actually not that long ago, sadly, where you'd go into a store and the guru would be the guy that bought all the cars, and he bought it all off his gut. He knew what sold, he knew kind of what was in the market, but he was also very careful on what he bought or she bought, okay? Sometimes he or she bought something that they wanted to drive for the summer. I mean, let's be honest, right? Because they figured they'll sell it later, but in the meantime, have some fun. Other times there would be cars that come in that they wouldn't take a chance on because they never had it in the store. Now, another dealership somewhere else across town may be crushing it in the market with that car, but because they didn't personally have any skin in the game with that particular car before, they may be a little reluctant to buy it and take a chance. But today, we have technology, man. We have technology that tells us everything. The technology knows what it doesn't know because it knows the entire market. It knows day supply, it knows rank, it knows everything. And you may not have had it in your store, but guess what? It knows everybody else that's had it, what's sold, how many days on their lots, what colors, what trim levels, everything you could imagine, it knows, and we all have that technology available with us. But technology aside, if we don't have the data, we have nothing, right? Imagine having a calculator that didn't have any numbers in it. You can push numbers till the cows come home, but if there are no numbers in the calculator, you're not going to get an answer. So that's why, without any further ado, Paul Machin from BLACKBOOK.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. And hopefully we can provide you some insights with data that otherwise it's just data. If you just look at it and read it for what it is, it may not make a lot of sense. And my goal is to help translate it to what I call dealerese, language that we use when we engage with our dealers every single day. Kind of like back in the day when compliance was really big, there was a lot of legalese, and dealers used to say, I don't understand this legal jargon. And we had to, those of us who got certified in compliance had to be able to translate legalese into dealerese. And my hope is to be able to deliver that to you here.
Awesome. Now we got a couple of comments that came in. Ty Thompson, he was in early. Says, good evening, gentlemen. Looking forward to tonight's show. Ty Thompson, Ty, the transport guy. So if you guys are not connected with Ty Thompson, you need to, because transportation is an integral part of our business at the dealership world. And the better we understand it, the better we'll do with it. We've got Tully Williams from the Nilo Group, my buddy. Hello, all. He says, I love data. You just love the hours, man. Tully's all about the hours. And Paul Machin, oh, that's you. Let's see, Michael Larkin, hello from West Hartford. And Ed Roberts, good evening all. Max Del Vento, can't make bricks without clay. Hashtag data. You know, I never heard that, but that's very good. That's almost right up there with that. Oh, we just lost Paul. I don't know what happened to Paul. It looks like we just lost him for a second. But it's just like that other comment where we compare inventory to a block of ice on hot concrete. So that's right up there. Victoria, good evening. And Robert Sebastian, hey, did I mention you're doing the halftime show? Just kidding, just kidding. Robert says, hello, everyone. Huh, let me find out what happened to Paul. Let's see here. Oh. All right, please stand by. Oh, okay, yeah, no, because all of a sudden it's like poof, you were gone. Huh. Right. Are you out of, because you're not even showing up in the dashboard. Why don't you go out of it completely and then click back in? Lamont Harris says, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Lamont. Welcome to the show. We're having a little techno glitch. Somehow Paul got knocked off the show, but he's in the process of coming back on. Hey, Lamont, you never change your settings, man, because on the computer it still shows LinkedIn user, but on the iPad it shows Lamont Harris. So just so you know. No problem. My friend David Kokenauer said that technology works 70% of the time, and 30% of the time you kind of have to deal with it, roll with the punches. Yes, Lamont, it's still not showing your name. So those settings that I had sent you, might have to double check those. What browser are you using, Paul? Oh, Safari and browser are best for this. And Chrome, I mean. Michael Larkin says turn it off and then turn it on again. But yeah, no, so it might be the browser. Chrome and Safari work best. Yeah, no, it was connected, and then all of a sudden it just went poof off the rails. So if you go on LinkedIn in Chrome or something, and then just click on the link in there, and that should let you in. You have no internet. You know what? You can go on your phone also if you want. No, but then you can't do the screen share, right? Wow, we're having a techno glitch here because if your internet's down, then you can go through the data on your phone. Huh. All right. Well, then I'm gonna have to hang up because I'm on the phone with you. All right. See you in a minute. Technology, you have to love it. When it works, you have to love it. When it doesn't work, you don't have to love it. But you know, it's stuff happens sometimes. So he's going to try to log on with his phone, and let's keep our fingers crossed because he's got all the stuff. If he doesn't come on with the stuff, then and it's a pretty interesting report too, because what they do is they look at all the data. So we have the data from last year on what happened, and based on that and some other data that they pulled, make some pretty good projections as to what's going to happen for 2021. And that's important stuff to know because as we gear up for what's coming, we need to know all of it. And there's a bubble that's about to burst that I haven't seen too many people talk about, but it's coming. And a lot of these forbearance deadlines have expired at the end of December. And there are a lot of people who have payments coming due that aren't going to be able to make those payments. And as a result of that, it's going to create a huge, huge problem because the repo market's going to explode. And there's some innovative technologies that are coming out right now that Paul's going to talk about, assuming that he's able to log back in, that help consumers kind of mitigate some of that. It also helps the banks because let's face it, the banks don't want the cars. They'd rather work out something between the consumer and maybe another buyer or an auction than be on the hook for all these cars, because there's a lot of cars, and it's a bubble that just think of a water balloon that's just taking on more and more and more water. Here we go.
Guys, I am so sorry about that.
All right, you're in. If you hold the phone sideways, then you appear full frame. There you go. All right, plan B.
Always works, right?
All right, so let's see. Ty Thompson says, Machin is the data man.
Mr. Ty.
And we got Keith Thon says, good evening. Good evening, Keith. Welcome. All right, so are you going to be able to do the share on the phone there?
I'm going to see what I can do here. I don't see the option to share from my phone. But you have it. I sent you the presentation.
Yeah, I'm not so good with the sharing thing, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
Let me see. I could try. Mark Williamson, Paul Machin's internet got 2020.
You know what's funny is I've been on it all afternoon, working with the presentation, doing the research behind it. You and I spent 15 minutes online together, flawless.
Nothing.
The show starts and all of a sudden it shuts down.
All right, so I'm opening up my email now. I'm going to see if I can do this. Yeah, I've not been too good with the screen share thing. All right, so we're going to give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, then I guess just kind of talk through it without the pictures.
I still might be able to do it. It looks like I'm getting my internet back up. It's coming on slowly.
You know, what's funny is when you log on to stuff, just when you don't want it to is when all these updates show up. It's like, no, I'm not looking to update anything right now. Let's see here.
Hold on, I'm gonna put you on mute while I try the internet. Hold on.
Okay. All right, almost there. Oh, I hear a sound. Was that the internet?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you back online?
Yep.
Awesome. That gets me out of the whole screen share thing, man, because the last couple of times I tried it, it wasn't that good. And it was Dirty Harry that put it best. There was limitations.
Now it says I'm in the show. All right, let me open up my screen here for you guys.
Awesome.
And
see it, I'll bring it on.
I made this to be very conversational with, for everyone. So
cool.
Let me get it open here.
Kenneth Dunner from Sugar Land, Texas. Good evening, you suave, debonair, sophisticated, stellar gentlemen, scholarly, articulated, eloquent human beings who are also intelligently, gorgeously, handsome looking, and so impeccably well dressed too. Savor the flavor of the awesomeness. I love this guy.
Very humbling. Very humbling.
How you doing?
It's coming up now.
Coming up. All right.
Almost.
It's like that movie you've been waiting to see, and it's finally come out, and the projector's going. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the projectors.
I do. I had one.
All right, we're in.
Can you guys see that? Super, super. So thank you again for your patience while we work through all of this. Don't understand what happened, but I think one of the people in the audience says technology works great when it's working great. All right. All right, so want to go through, what to expect for 2021, right? So we do know that the first half of 21, we're going to see repo vehicles will start to show up in higher numbers within in Q1. We also expect to see hold on a second, guys. I think I just pulled up the wrong one.
Uh-oh.
In my rush to get online, I pulled up the wrong one. That's my fault.
It's all about the data, but it's got to be the correct data.
That's right. I was like, wait a minute, it's not starting off right.
And you dig into this so much. You have so many different reports you're always looking at.
Yes, and that's I took a course on critical thinking, and the basis behind critical thinking is the core element behind critical thinking is the ability to be able to take seemingly unconnected events and connect them together to develop a plot line, so to speak. It's what makes more sense. So, but it does require diving in and seeing a lot of it. All right, here we go. I think we got the right one now.
Perfect.
Can you guys see the full screen?
Mm-hmm. Looking good.
So 2020, and in summary, I want to start off with what the year was like. So we start off the year with the pandemic and the forced unemployment. As you can see, I put a red circle here because I wanted to emphasize how unprecedented this industry, the labor market is. So between February and the end of November, we lost almost 9.8 million jobs. That's by the St. Louis Fed. The square represents is the other recessions we had. So we had the oil crisis, we had the early 1990s recessions, and then we also had the Great Recession. And you can, when you take a look at the graph and the plot, how it goes up and kind of levels out, and the difference between each one of these. And you see the sharp increase when we started to rebound, and then the backdrop, and now you're seeing we're starting to taper off. That, if you look at this, you can think of it a couple of different ways. You could say, oh, we're going to be somewhere in the middle of this baseline. I don't think that's going to be the case. I believe, based on my interactions with a lot of wonderful entrepreneurs, that we're going to see another sharp trajectory somewhere at the end, beginning around Q2 is my personal expectations. That's why I've got this block, squared off. That if the right focus, the engine behind our industry and the economy as a whole, it's entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. They always figure out ways to get things done. As you and I were talking about earlier, one of the things about being in the automotive vertical is the drive to figure out ways to get things done in spite of everything that's in the marketplace today.
Yeah.
So when you think about forced unemployment and then the ability for the sharp rebound that's going to happen, what does that mean right now in terms of delinquencies in automotive lending? So these are accounts in hardships from March 2020 through the end of November. I don't have December's yet. And you can see it's been pretty stable. No real spike in the accounts in overall hardships. There's been a real good baseline for us there to be able to be stable with.
Now, for those people in the audience that might not know hardship, that's people just can't make the payments and they've gotten a few months relief from the banks. Define accounts in hardship for them.
That is correct. So through the CARES Act, there was some regulation that was put into place that allowed the lenders to afford a greater degree of flexibility, specifically for mortgages, credit cards, student loans, and automobiles. They took the lessons from the crash in 2008 through 2010 and the flexibility that the Fed allowed mortgage lenders to offer consumers. And they did that here. So when you take a look at total accounts and hardships, it's about 3 point overall. When you take from super prime customers all the way down to subprime customers, 3.2% of all accounts. When you think in terms of how many accounts that are actually financed in this industry, 3.2% is really not a whole lot. The impact, though, is felt greater in the subprime category. And that's where you feel the impact, which is 10.4% of all subprime automotive accounts were in hardship. So that begs a focus, again, entrepreneurial thinking. What is the opportunity in our vertical going into 2021? Are we expecting to see the chance Will we have the right inventory? Will we have the right lending profiles? Will we have the credit facilities available to be able to service these new breed of customers that's coming on board? And I believe we will. If we take a look at Experian, this is a report that just came out by Experian. It says, I don't know if you guys can see that well, because I realize it's a little small on my screen. So the top tier, super prime, middle tier is prime, near prime is the fuchsia color, subprime is more pinkish, and then the deep subprime is the bottom is the brown. So the first row is 2018, then we have 2019, and then we have 2020. If you take a look at the percentages, right, in the increase or decrease from year over year, we're not that far off. Doesn't look it, right? So when you think we got 2018, we take a look at what we did in 2019, and now look at 2020. And when you look at just the raw data and you leave out all the emotional stuff we hear in media, and we got this happening, we got that happening, all that, I call it emotional flaming, right? Let's get people worked up.
Yeah. Forget
all that. The data suggests that the people, we are doing a better job at being more conservative. We're spending less money because we're not going out. We're not, we're spending less on restaurants. We're not going on vacations. We're being more
economically prudent.
Right. We're being economically prudent, and it's showing. It's showing. So there are three questions I was thinking about. What professions are most at risk? If we know that there's going to be a repossession tsunami in the first 6 months of the year, what are the professions most at risk, and what are those customers like? I have a thinking, retail, a lot of retail managers, and I'm not just talking, right, hospitality industry, from the hotel down to vacations and travel, leisure, anything. But you're talking about leaders in these organizations, managers, professionals. They pay their bills, they're used to making good money, and they tend to be more responsible. Do we treat them as a really bad subprime customer? They just got hit badly. So thinking in terms of what kind of experience do you want to deliver to that kind of customer that's coming through the front door? What will their needs be? Maybe last year, the car that they just lost was a $700 car payment. And that was fine for them for the last 4 years. Today, they need a $200 car payment. They don't need to engage somebody, right? Paulie, you don't want to get in front of somebody that's going to try to upsell you to pay $600 on a car payment, and you just repossess one for $650. You're trying to get into a $300 car payment. So let's show some empathy. Let's understand what those customers' needs will be. And then the last piece, what types of inventory should be sourced that will best meet that customer's needs? And that goes segue. I'm not going to see what I can sell. I need to sell what's available to my customers' needs.
And that's a big catch-22 for dealers, because acquiring cars is a challenge unto itself. And my gut feeling tells me, from what I'm seeing in the market, that some of the more desirable vehicles aren't necessarily ones that they're going to be able to buy at the auction.
That's correct. That's correct. And that's a great segue to here, right? So auction insights and auction volume. Year over year, this is from January through the end of November, we saw our no sale rates increase substantially during the fall by about 15%. Rental companies held back some of their units, mainly because of the hurricanes, the seasons, and related rentals in September and October.
Yeah.
They delayed the purchase of new rental models, and they pushed that into 2021. And so there's less auction. The fleet rental companies are keeping the cars.
That's a big chunk of the market too. The wholesale is huge.
Tremendous. And there's a slide in here about Hertz, about what they contributed this year. Repossessions are being slow, but they're starting to unfurl now. They're coming on board. And something that we've been talking about through with Jay and Ty and Mark at Auto Transport Intel is dealers have been holding more onto their trade-ins and lease returns and sending fewer and fewer vehicles to the auctions. That's having an impact on the availabilities and the volumes. I actually attended a a conference, and I actually heard the woman say towards the end of December, they had 54 some odd thousand vehicles waiting at auction to run through the lane, which happened to be, yeah. And so we expect that that's going to add to our numbers here. So these are our weekly auction sales rate for 2020, starting from February 29th all the way through January 2nd. And you could see where the dip is when we shut down everything. Yeah. And then we kind of, at the onset, just completely tumbled. Then we had a steady rise, leveled off from June through July. Then we started declining again in August through Labor Day, stabilized again in September, October, and post-Thanksgiving sales were due increase because we saw people were willing to finally negotiate. One of the challenges that we experienced this year is current wholesale price trends. We did not expect the increase in the summer. Typically, there's always a steady declination in pricing for used vehicles, but they were very strong this year. We saw an increase in a lot of categories, and if you take a look overall, $79 for cars, 70% less than 7%, and 33% for trucks at $56. But the overall valuation buoyed by the strong truck market. And so if you're a Ford dealer or a Chevy dealer or a GMC dealer, and you have a lot of trucks, you're in good position. If you're a used car independent store and you have a lot of trucks, you're in good position, especially if you got them priced well. There's a trend that we're seeing in the data, compact crossover SUVs to CUV. I think that, and me personally, I think that's going to be a really good segment to consider. When you take into consideration, going back to the previous slide, we talk about the repossessions. What type of customers are these people, right? Maybe they can't afford the full-size SUV, that they're able to do everything for their family, and they're willing to accommodate with a smaller crossover utility vehicle. So keep your eye on that market. So 2020 challenge.
If I could just jump in here for a second. The reason we didn't see, and a lot of people might not be aware of this, the reason we didn't see this giant wave of repossessions is because the banks kind of held things back in not pursuing those, because quite frankly, they don't really want all those cars back. So Correct. Some of that is a little bit artificially propped up. Let me just address a couple of comments in here before we keep going. Ty Thompson says, looks and sounds good. I think he meant the audio quality. Robert Sebastian says, you could do it, Paul. Well, I'll have to practice a little bit more. And my buddy Carmine Crispino, local doctor, great info, thank you. Dan Leikowitz, good evening. And Jay Wurzberger from Auto Transport Intel says, thanks for the shout out, guys. Here's another one you need to connect with. Auto Transport Intel. Got 4 shows a week on YouTube. Over 10,000 followers on YouTube. So there's some great information there. I usually catch the Tuesday night show. That's 9 Eastern on. Sometimes it runs till 11. And then Friday show, now he's got me hooked on. There's 2 more, but I'm afraid to look because I just don't have that time. But it's good information that I hate to get sucked in because I want the knowledge, but there's only 24 hours in a day. And I can't spend half of that with Jay. Right. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no. That's it. I love those guys. Love Jay, love Ty, love Mark Rodeke and the entire ATI team. So the summary from 2020, there are 3 challenges we had were credit quality, inventory, right? What I mean by that is, do dealers have the right type of vehicle that they could get financed for the right year, the right rate, at the right term, and still make the right kind of profit they need to make. And then they have to have a credit qualified customer to fit that. And then how strong a finance department do they have to be able to attain those first 2? And then there's a whole subset behind that, just in the fixed ops side that we can talk about. But just in those 3 basics, and I think that's going to carry on into 2021, even more so. Wholesale prices, what's the impact that we think is most likely economic scenario? And you could see, and I'm just going to go to the circle right in here. You could see starting in June of 2020, wholesale prices appreciated 5.7%. Probably one of the first times in our history that we've ever seen that. And that came right after the PPP and the CARES Act and the delayed tax season. that drove that focus. Will we see that same thing going into 2021 when, if some more PPP and more CARES Act comes in and some more regulation comes in, will we see the same type of lift? I can't say, I don't know. I don't have, what's that called? The figure eight ball?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The magic 8 ball.
The magic 8 ball. I don't have one. I'm gonna have to get one for as a prop. But if I had one, I would ask it and to see what happens. But I do know for sure that one of the things that I think we need to be looking at is for more full-size trucks, more medium-sized trucks, and that CUV. I think that's going to be a critical piece to fit the needs of the coming consumer who's lost their vehicles and need to get a replacement. Wholesale prices. What's the impact, right? Depressed wholesale prices throughout the winter. As you can see, right, of 2021, we anticipate the continuing downward pressure on pricing for the first 6 months. We're going to see an increase of used vehicles hitting the market in the next 6 months, and that's going to further depress the pricing. However, the two vehicles that we need to look for, 6-year-old vehicles in average condition, that'll be pure gold. And I suggest do not think about the only place I can buy those is going to be at the auction. That vehicle is probably in someone's driveway, and the people who win in 2021 are going to figure out ways to source that directly from John Q. Public. Long-term projections for wholesale pricing, we don't anticipate that pre-COVID-19 prices won't return until fall or winter 2023. And you'll see some more slides that are in here. And please, if anyone who wants to have a copy of this, you can connect with Paul Meyer or myself, and I'll be glad to share this with you. On the used retail side, we expect used retail prices to continue to decline throughout the winter. We've mainly limited by the stimulus payments or the lack of that's been coming. And I hate to think that that's the reason why we're going to have a limited used retail prices. I also think it's because of the inventory that's coming in. And we're starting the year, because we had such a robust finish of the year, at 8.4% below where we started for the year. So that, again, that you have to think in terms of our end customer. All of our end customer is the dealer. That person's end customer is their customer. What does that mean all the way through the process? How do we service those people when they're experiencing a 20 to 25% shortage in listing vehicles online? This is from our Retail Market Insights data. Sorry, let me get that, there you go. So our Retail Market Insights, we track every single day, every independent dealer and every franchise dealer, their website. We want to find all their VDPs and the VIN numbers associated to it. And what BLACKBOOK's looking for, it's for selfish reasons. First, we want to see if a VIN number we haven't seen before, and we want to add it to our database. And we're looking to see how that vehicle has been verified by the person who booked it out. Once we see 3 times it's consistently verified the same way, high confidence level that that vehicle's booked the way it is. But we collect a whole host of other data that goes with it, from average days to listing, how many price changes it's had, how many vehicles like that in the market, and so on and so on and so on.
That's all critical information, because
Absolutely.
that tells you what to buy, how long you're going to be into it for, what you need to pay, or what your opportunity is.
Mm-hmm.
Without that data, it's like throwing a dart, with a mask on.
Mm-hmm. So, and if you look back, right, we started 2020 above previous year's levels, and then by July we dropped 7% below 2019 numbers, and then we dropped another 9% in August. September, we had a slight increase. We grew up to 6%, and we had an October rebound, 1.8%, and in November, December, used vehicle listings were about 4% down year over year. A lot of information behind that, right? So is it really down because of the level of inventory, or is it down because dealers were selling vehicles quicker? They were getting these quick vehicles in, and they've developed processes internally that allow them, as soon as they acquired a vehicle, their systems were able to say, there's a match in their DMS or in their CRM. I got John Jones who's ready to buy this car right now. The car is sold before it was even hits the lot. I'm seeing and hearing a lot of that. So I think that plays into part of that being down year over year. And again, we're going to see technologies that's coming into 2021 that's going to further increase the ability, the insight to be able to say, before this car hits my lot, it's already paid for. Someone else's, it's going to someone else's driveway. That kind of efficiency is what will drive our business going forward.
You know what? What's interesting too is that we've had so much stuff that's kind of tried to trip us up, right?
Yep.
But yet we've learned to leverage the data to make better projections. We've learned to better utilize our CRM systems and our DMSs to have better buy lists, right? And be able to place cars. And then you got guys like Josh at Recon Velocity, where they're getting the cars in and out and road ready a lot quicker. So you take all those factors together, it's kind of an awakening, right? We learned that we don't need 20 people to do what 10 people can do.
Brian Benstock, I've been following him for quite a while, knew him from my dealer track days. He was always willing to embrace the technology. And he was very keen on technology by itself is just technology. I've got to have the process to make a technology work, right? So you mentioned Recon Velocity. They brought the process in. They got the technology, but then they got the process. And they're heavily invested in working with everyone from A to Z to understand the process must be utilized to make the technology work. I mean, you and I have been on that side of the fence working with dealers every single day for years. And there was always a struggle, right? It's always a struggle. You've got to invest in the process. The technology won't work by itself. You've got to invest in the process.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if anybody's interested to learn a little bit more about Brian Benstock, on my YouTube channel, the White Tablecloth, the playlist called Titans in Automotive, there's a video with Brian Benstock and some other heavy hitters that's quite enlightening. So just give you that little tidbit, and don't forget to subscribe while you're there. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. All right, so that was a good one, actually. So near and dear to new franchise dealers, new vehicle sales outlook. On the left, you see Bloomberg just put this out, what the forecast was, what they actually sold, and where they were. You see GM, year-over-year change, 4.8%. They beat their forecast. Incentives, heavy incentives did a lot of employee sales did there. Fiat Chrysler, don't have their numbers here, but they're down 9.3% overall.
Yikes.
Toyota, right. Toyota beat their forecast. Honda's down 8.8% overall. And to that point, I watched a video by Brian Benstock today. He's super excited. He was announcing that for the first time ever, Honda's now come out with a 0% interest program. Could that be one of the reasons why Toyota and GM has beat the market, because their forecast, because they were early adopters of using these kind of strong incentives, and Honda was not? There's no way. We need more data to be able to predict that. It could be a supply issue for Honda, because Honda tends to do really, really well.
Yeah, but you know what? Incentives are key. I worked for Saab years ago, and they were always strong in incentives. And we had what seemed like an eternal $299 Saab 9.3 lease deal, right?
Right.
And we were order takers with that car. The phone calls would come in. We'd only get allocated X amount, and they'd all sell. We'd sell everything before the cars came in. They were all sold, and we'd get the phone calls in. Yeah, interested in a lease deal? Great. Have you driven the car? Yes. Great. Okay. Before they even say anything else, we got red, dark green, and blue. Which one do you want? I need $500 to hold the car. Well, I was thinking, you can think of all you want, but I'm just letting you know this is what we have now, and chances are probably, and there's no pressure, so don't act on it if you're not ready. But chances are good that by the end of the week, these are going to be gone also, because that's what we've been seeing for quite some time now. And people would buy cars. They put the deposits down. So incentives definitely play into it. When the incentives goes away, it seems like the inventory starts piling up, especially in a challenging economy.
That's right. That's 100% true. So this is a forecast of what we think from Black Book, right? So coming into 2021, where we feel like it's going to be a little bit better than 2020. So 15.3 million, 2022, we're saying 15.9. So I want you to remember this block, these 2 years. That's why I have it in red here. And then I'm going to ask you to think about something. NADA last month said there's approximately 16,641 new car franchises in the nation. If you take the number of vehicles that we're predicting to be sold, it's roughly 71 new units, 65 to 70 to say, let's put it in that range.
It's not a lot.
Not a whole lot, just on the new car side. So the dealer needs to pick up the other half of their business has to be pre-owned or more. There's going to be supply chain challenges with new cars. We already know that with new cars. So they really need to be more focused on finding more newer used vehicles to fit the demands of the customers, and really embracing a new car type sales process for the used vehicle. But on top of that, I thought this was interesting. 125 million repair orders were written. And that was $51 billion in projected revenue between sales and parts. I know you're really big in fixed ops. Think about this. How many times has ordered parts based on vehicle information that the technician or the service writer said, this is kind of year, make, model, trim level vehicle, and your tech's waiting to get the parts. The parts show up, they got the wrong part. They didn't have the right trim level associated, so they got the wrong part. That adds even more time, more delay. There are technologies today, there are solutions providers that are helping improve the RO process, the parts delivery process, the identification of the right trim level process. But when you talk about $51 billion of potential revenue from just last year, and we do know the impact of the used vehicle market that's coming because of the repossessions, we need to get better at not just servicing our own OEM vehicles when they come in for service. We've got to become a master of all trades to service any pre-owned vehicle and do it at a fair price so we don't lose that to our independent shop.
Tell me again, what was that number, overall number?
51 billion was in sales and parts.
That's
sales.
The entire market. That's
right.
Dealers, independents.
This is NADA, so this would be from new cars.
New cars only. Okay.
New franchise dealers.
Do we know what the overall? Do you know what the overall number is, including everybody?
No, I don't have that number yet, but it's astronomically even higher. Huge.
The dealers only capture, I think, about 30% of the business on a good day.
Now, let's think about it. That's why I said think, right? That's why it says think right there.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity. I can't, how many dealers I go to say, well, you really need to get good at servicing your customer's entire driveway, not just the car they bought from you.
And that opens up so many opportunities, because it's not just service, it's also sales, having the data to know what they have, for one, not only know what they have, but know where they stand in what they have, and knowing in your head, being able to think quickly. You might have somebody in that they want to trade in a particular car. Well, that car might not be the car that they're able to trade, but if you have the data to know what else they have and where they stood on that, you might be able to change that whole deal around, but you've got to be able to think that stuff quickly. I'll never forget, years ago at Saab, it was the last day of the month, I believe it was a Saturday, and I needed one more car for my bonus, and I'm on a test drive. It's towards the end of the afternoon. I'm on a test drive in a new car, a new RX, but already in the back of my mind, I had an executive car that we had taken in. I knew where we stood on that, and I knew what the monetary differential was between what I was showing them, what they had asked for, and where that other car fit in, right? So on the test drive, asking the qualifying questions. And I'm starting to get the idea that the car that we're in, that's not the car that's going to leave the lot today on the last day of the month, and the customer is looking for a deal. That's not the car that's going to happen. So in my head, I had already done the calculations because I had the data, right? And I keep going back to that because it's critical. I had the data, so I knew what plan B was. So as we're coming back in, I said, look, you know what you're telling me, this car is not going to work. However, if you're open-minded, I've got something else to show you that will. Well, guess what? I think I left the lot about 9 o'clock that night. So after spot delivering the executive car, which we had cleaned, ready to go, you know, as a backup, just in case. So you always have to have the data, and then you have to have the game plan in mind. Don't always be fixed on, okay, we can only do it this one way. If that's the mindset, you're going to lose every time. But if you have plan A, plan B, and even plan C if need be, with the data, then you got a good shot of making that deal. So it is great stuff you got here, Paul.
All right, and it all centers to that one thing, right? You got to have the right data. You got to have the right data to make it work. And if you're going to be venturing into the next category, which is the used vehicle supply protection, remember what I said: 65 to 70 is the average new franchise dealer. So where will they find the other half of the inventory that they need to sell? Auction's always a mainstay, but that's a highly competitive market. We already know that dealers are going to send less off-lease vehicles and less repossessions to the auctions. They're going to keep them. So we are expecting vehicle supplies is going to double from what 2019 projections were. So in the first 6 months of the year. So substantial challenges in the repossession is from the recovery side of the business, the transportation side of the business, and the disposal. Those three categories alone are not fully prepared. But we also know that there's an opportunity to fill the gap. And Constant AI is one of those companies that we know of that is working to try to be the bridge between the lender and the consumer that's at risk to reduce the potential of an involuntary repossession. If we can reduce the potential of involuntary repossessions, we increase the profitability on that vehicle coming back into the market. Because we avoid the risk, right? Absolutely. You think in terms of an involuntary repossessions and all the regulatory loopholes we've got to jump through just to get that vehicle market ready again. And the lender is losing. The ultimate winner is the dealer at the end of the day, but the consumer, let's go back to who we're talking about first, the consumer who had to go to involuntary repossession is out of market again. We want to keep that customer in market. And so there's a lot of opportunity for people. If they got the right data, they got the right data, and they got the right relationships, can take advantage of reducing and improving profitability in those areas. Rental unit returns, Hertz, through their bankruptcy, added 250,000 units.
Hey, and that really hurts. And that really hurts.
Right?
It's the end of the week, man.
No, that was perfect, right? That was perfect. What is the business and leisure travel? We know it collapsed at the end of March. It's still down 60% overall. The forecast for international air by the Transport Association, they don't predict that air travel will come back to pre-COVID levels until 2024. What does that do to the rental market, right?
3 years, man.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes. Again, I get goosebumps when I think about entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. Do you know about Turo? Turo?
Say that again?
Turo, a rental car company called Turo. Actually, they're more like a Uber or Lyft, but they're called Turo. So you fly into Florida and you want to take a vacation and you feel like you want to rent a nice convertible. You got the Turo app. You say, I'm going Uber and Lyft, but it's Turo. And you find someone who owns that vehicle, and like Airbnb, they're renting out their personal vehicle, right?
My buddy does that. He's got 3 cars. He rents out like that.
Yep. That also brings into the gig industry for food delivery. My girls both my stepdaughters and my wife and I, we keep DoorDash on the road. They just come. It's like every other day. We got someone coming delivering food here. And I found, I was talking to the guy before the last time he dropped off some food. He has 5 vehicles that he rents out. He drives and he owns 5 other vehicles that he rents out. That is ingenuity to take advantage of a need in the industry.
Sure.
All right. And that's what we got to think. I always like to say, I borrowed this from my friend Greg Becker. We don't need to think out of the box. We got to throw the box away. We just got to throw it away.
Create a whole new one.
Right. And we feel that late 2021 through 2023, there will be a reduced supply of rental returns, which will, on the other side, will increase pricing for newer used vehicles. And that's going to be stemming from what my last slide here, one of my last slides, I should say, is the longer term use projections. So these are the vehicles. These are vehicles that are up to 8 years of age. And you can see they start to dip. They're dropping here.
Yeah.
2020, 2021, 22. So because in 2019 and in 2020, we had fewer leases, we're going to see that hurt us coming in the next 3 years because fewer leases are coming back. So again, the technology, the creativity that's going to be needed, where do we find that inventory to backfill that gap? And you need good data to be able to do that.
What's interesting is that this is going to force dealers to really look at what they're doing, look at what's available, and make changes that they don't want to make, but they're going to have to for self-preservation.
Yes. Yes. I think because of that, you'll see an increase in mergers and acquisitions from medium to larger dealer groups buying the smaller stores, 1 and 2 rooftops, because they just don't have the credit facilities to make those changes they need to make.
I've seen that happening over several years. I've got a list of 40 some odd dealerships just in New England over the last few years have changed. You know what? A couple of those have changed more than once in just a few years.
That's correct.
So, that's wild.
So I like to point, so let's talk a little bit about CARMAX, CARVANA, VROOM, Sonic's, EchoPark, and AutoNation. These are, CARMAX and CARVANA has been around for quite a while. VROOM's a new player on the block. EchoPark's also a new player. AutoNation recently announced that they plan to have 100 standalone used vehicle locations nationwide.
Wow.
By the end of this year. What's driving that? Who's the primary focus? I guess this model works. For 20 years, CARMAX has been proving this model works.
Nobody wanted to listen. And you know what? People take for granted that CARMAX, they rule, right? And look at the OEMs. Ford, right? They're putting together their program. They're finally taking it seriously. And the sad thing about the car business is that people don't necessarily, when I say people, us dealers, we don't necessarily do things because, this is what we want to do, or this is what should be done, or this is what the consumer wants. No, that's bullshit. They do things oftentimes because their hand is forced into doing it, right? Nobody said anything about CarMax for so long. They just assumed, and I've said this probably, those of you that have watched the show probably said, oh, he's going to say that lunchroom thing.
I was going to ask you to say it.
Right? But it's true. CarMax comes into the cafeteria, people get up, they slide their tray over, it's like, oh, lunch is over, they're out. You don't see anybody badmouth them about anything. And then CARVANA got in the game, number 8, out of nowhere, all of a sudden they're number 8. And people make all kinds of, but they're not profitable, they're not this, they're not that. Who cares? Look at Amazon when they started. Is there anybody in the room that will say that Amazon is no good? Nobody I know.
Oh, wow. That's 100% true. So if you just look at CARMAX and CARVANA's numbers, and we know 35 to 40 million used is sold on an annual basis between independents and franchise. So about a 50-50 split. And if you just say, okay, what is CARMAX and CARVANA sold as a whole? And if you say against new car market, they sold 5% of the 20 million that the new car franchise dealer sold. Okay, that's the other side. If you just say, what did they do against the independents? Well, they also sold 5% of what the independent market sold. Two of those. Now you've got VROOM, EchoPark, and AutoNation coming on board. What needs to change for the rest of the market so they don't lose more market share?
And you know what? What's interesting is that AutoNation is no joke. I mean, they are number one in car sales, right? Number one. You don't think these guys have the systems, processes, management teams in place to be able to dominate this market now that they've decided to fully get into it? They're going to crush. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with CARVANA, what happens with CARMAX when they really execute. When their team is ready to deploy, they're going to be a formidable competitor.
So those guys, AutoNation, talk about data, they got a whole data science team, whole data science department. And they're one of our greatest partners in the market. And you're right, they're working on on a play. When they said they're coming out and they're going to have 100 AutoNation standalone used car superstores by the end of this year, they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
And what that's going to do is that's going to slap down a lot of players because they have a reach like nobody's business. They have the teams, they have the technologies. But most importantly, they have the desire to make it work.
And that's the one thing, when you said the technology and the process and the teams, they do. News from the retail world, right? So we talked about it earlier when we went through the new car sales forecast and how did the OEMs meet their goal or beat their goal. You were right. Strong demand, large. I'm talking large incentives. Help them do it. They were huge. Used retail prices. We do expect that the demand to soften because of the incentives that'll be there and the influx of all those used vehicles. There is a concern. What's going to happen if this new strain of COVID-19 that comes out and there's another forced shutdown, what that would look like and feel like. We already know we've got a lot of practice in a completely contactless process. There's improvement that needs to be done.
Sure. One
of those improvements centers on a sight unseen appraisal. That's probably the number one concern that I'm hearing from auto groups to new startups. How do I put a number on a vehicle if I can't physically see it and smell it and drive it? Well, you're going to have to use trustworthy data that's going to give you the exact information about that vehicle and the title history on that vehicle. You need to use data that is objective and not subjective when it comes to valuations based on what does the auto check say on the title? Well, what's the valuation for that information? And then there's a whole host of other numbers that we all look at when we appraise a vehicle. I heard that. Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, me personally, I don't see that as being such a mystery science because, quite frankly, many years, I bought a lot of cars sight unseen, and a lot of those have been within a nickel of what it should be, right? Up or down. If you ask the right questions, and certainly now there with so much, mobile technology. I mean, we have Carfax and some of these other reporting is not the greatest because unless it's reported, you don't know what happened. If it didn't go through the insurance company and there was no police officer called to the scene, there could be repaint that's not on anybody's history report. I get that, and I've personally seen that. But for the most part, I don't know that that's going to be the case. And this is unscientific. This is just my opinion, right?
Right.
If you have the data, i.e., when the car was serviced, how frequently it was serviced, what was done, because a lot of times now all that stuff's put on the RO and it's all put in the history online. The brake rotors, the brake pads, the tires replaced, all that. So you have a pretty good idea what the recon cost is going to be. You know the history as to whether or not there's any damage. There are apps now, and I can't tell you the name, but there are several apps where the consumer can snap some of these trade-in apps where they can snap pictures of their car. They can describe it. It's fairly close as to what the condition is, and then if there are blemishes, that they can send in the pictures. Right? I sold tons of cars off of eBay, shipped them across the country, shipped overseas, all of that. And I disclosed everything. Hey, there's a blemish on the left front fender. Here it is. Here's a picture of it zoomed in. This is what it is. So, with the technology that's available today, they're going to have to, if we have another shutdown, they're going to have to get better at buying the cars sight unseen. And the service piece of it, that's already taken off. Brian Benstock has shown that people don't have to go to the store.
That's right. That's right. He certainly has. He certainly has. And my next segue is the electric vehicle market. And what is a new market without Apple trying to get a piece of it? They anticipate that they're going to have a 2024 vehicle.
Apple.
Yes. And so I won't click the link here, but if you share this with anyone, you click on that link right there. It's a pretty slick looking vehicle. So these are these are the 9 new EV manufacturers I think we all need to pay attention to, because whether they all make it or not, they are early stage. They're opening the pathway for us, and you'll see more of this coming to the market. So Bollinger Motors, they have a vehicle that's going to be between 80 to 125,000. They've recently had a successful series of funding. Biden Technologies, they anticipate to have about an $80,000 vehicle. Faraday Futures, which I think is the vehicle that you and I were talking about.
With the 3 different platforms.
Right. It's going to have it's a $100,000 price point. Lucid Motors is another electric manufacturer. Polestar. You have Rimac. I'm not sure if I even say that right. Rimac Automobili. I believe that's the one that a Saudi crown prince just invested $1 billion in. Almost all of these, combined, you take all 9 of them, there are billions of dollars that have been invested into these companies to be successful. Rivian Electric has a contract right now to deliver 100,000 delivery vehicles for Amazon.
And here's the key thing to remember, right? Some of these companies have gotten mad funding without having built so much as one car.
Correct.
That's huge. I mean,
there's a strong appetite. There's a strong appetite for it, right? Now, when you think in terms of what's needed to support that market, right? What data is needed? What's the infrastructure that's needed? How can we, as entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, take advantage of this rise in the business? Lordstown did it with the GM partnership. They're looking at, you and I talked about it earlier. They shut down 20% of their dealers, and now they're going to be investing in an electric vehicle Hummer. Yeah,
that's crazy.
The market is beautiful for us.
We got so caught up in this here. Jay's given us a bunch of shout outs, much appreciated, guys, and he's got a link to Auto Transport Intel. Definitely connect with those guys and subscribe to their channel. Their show is awesome. And let's see, we got Jay and Ty going back and forth talking about process. Lou Ramirez, one of the coffee guys, vendor match master. What's brewing? Hey, how are you, Lou? And Jared, we know this Jared guy, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Dropping knowledge bombs. Wow, you guys are intense. Love it. You think we're intense, or we just love the business, man?
We love the business. This is I've been doing this going on 31 years now. I was born into this business, and I don't want to do anything else.
41 years for me, man.
Yeah, you got a little bit of time on me. But you look good, bro. You look good.
Yeah, it's all, I don't know what it is. I don't know. A baby face and a bald head will make you look good every day. Lou Ramirez says, great conversation, car guys. Thank you. Ty Thompson, IE Transportation. Yep, I've learned so much about transportation, man. So, wow, you know what? This has been an awesome hour, actually an hour plus. We went a little over, but that's okay because we had some techno glitches. And We own the network, so who cares? So I want to thank you, Paul. This was awesome. This is some great information you shared here. Hopefully some people took away some good information, probably some stuff they didn't know, and because there's some stuff in here I didn't know, and that's the beauty of collaboration.
Well, I'm hoping that in the context of the data that I was able to peel back some layers, that the audience could actually understand and digest it, to think in terms of how can I use this as an insight to motivate me to do something different in 2021. And please feel free to reach out to me, anyone, share this deck with those people who request it. And I look forward to it. I look forward to a phenomenal 2021.
I think that it's going to be a great year. The year started off really good for us. We actually got a jump start on the year. We launched Dealer Vendor Match mid-November. So, you know, we were done with 2020. So we figured, you know, let's get started with 2021 now. And that's what we did. So things are going really well. Mark Williamson says, great show, guys. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody. Paul Machin is the data machine. I'll second that, man. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in.
Thank you, Mark.
Stuff here that would benefit anybody you know, by all means, share this broadcast with your automotive community. And I wish you guys a very successful week coming up. Just crush it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for tuning in and supporting the show. I appreciate it. I do my best to bring the people that bring the value so that we all benefit. So Paul, thank you again, man.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you, guys. Ciao.
All right, we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live.